Hello, this is Mike Jackson, and tonight NBC4 welcomes you to this special Columbus conversation on diversity and inclusion. You know, the demographic makeup of Central Ohio, it's changed significantly in the last 25 years. The census reports indicates it'll continue to evolve. Inclusion is about embracing differences of thought, background, experiences, economic status, race, lifestyles, and ethnicity. It's also about honoring collectively our common threads, the voices and perspectives, the talents, the roles, the viewpoints that build stronger and healthier workforces throughout Central Ohio. So please join us tonight as we celebrate what makes our Columbus community so vibrant and uniquely diverse.
Thanks, Mike. Good evening. I'm Donna James. In recent years, diversity and inclusion has become more than simply a popular topic of conversation. Many Fortune 500 corporations, government agencies, and large and small nonprofit organizations are engaged in diversity work on some level. So what is diversity and inclusion? It is all of us, the tapestry that we call community, and it is an economic and cultural driver of our society. There are three powerful trends making diversity and inclusion strategies an important issue today. First, the global marketplace in which U.S. corporations and community organizations operate has become highly competitive. Second, the makeup of the U.S. population has changed dramatically. And third, many more people are embracing and celebrating their differences instead of compromising their uniqueness just to fit in. Creating a workplace and a community that reflects, respects, and engages the broad spectrum of human diversity is imperative for competitive organizations today. So tonight, we will hear from some of Ohio's leading corporations and businesses and catch a glimpse of their work around diversity and inclusion.
Well, the Harmony Project is an arts and service organization, and the whole idea behind it is about bringing people together from different communities, different walks of life. It's not about us overcoming our differences necessarily. It's about celebrating them, because the Harmony Project believes that our differences is what makes us stronger as a community. And what we try to do is not just celebrate diversity, but actually build a more inclusive community in the process. We create service project opportunities around the community so that people from different neighborhoods, different backgrounds can work together. We also use music and the performing arts as a tool to provide an opportunity for people to discover their voice, metaphorically within the community, but also literally discover their voice. There are people who have the dream of performing, of singing on a stage, but they were told maybe in school that they weren't good enough to sing. Well, that's exclusion, in my opinion. And I believe that all art is subjective, and so the Harmony Project does not audition people to join the choir. We require, though, that you do commit to serve the community and give back. So while the idea of singing and serving is not necessarily a new idea, I think the Harmony Project's approach to singing and serving is unique, in that we don't ask if you can sing, we ask if you will serve. The Harmony Project, the participants themselves are a snapshot of this community and represent the mosaic that is Columbus, that I think is the mosaic of America in many ways. We have Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, agnostic. We have Tea Party and socialist. We have left and right. We have teenagers that are homeschooled. We have senior citizens who are, in the golden years of their lives. And the beauty of it is that they all come together because there's something within each of them that calls themselves to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Well, Louis, thank you for taking the time to do this. This is an honor for me because the legacy of this company in our community and you as a leader, an African-American leader in this community, is just phenomenal. So I want to sort of start at the beginning. What prompted you at such an early age, I think it was 13, to begin working for your father's company, the Sherman R. Smoot Company?
Actually, Dad prompted that. This was in Charleston, West Virginia, and he just hollered upstairs. He said, "Son, it's time to go to work." And that was during the summertime after we were out of school. I had ideas about playing a little ball, or in today's words, goofing off. He had other ideas for me. And it was one of the better days of my life.
Fascinating. So how difficult was it in the early days for a minority construction firm to earn and gain contracts and work on major construction projects?
Very difficult. Very difficult. It's been difficult through the years because we're constantly striving to do more tomorrow than what we did today and build the business. There are many factors that play into that. One of them is experience. Many times people say, "You don't have the experience to do this particular job." It doesn't take always the experience. It takes the right attitude and ability to be able to perform. And if I fast forward to today, if you look at the State House here, I'd never done one of those before. If you look at an air traffic control tower, I'd never done one of those before. But you build a track record, and in building that track record, it's built on respect and honesty and integrity, and it works for us.
For over 64 years, your company has been involved in building some of Central Ohio's most highly visible buildings and facilities. One of those facilities included building the new Ohio Union on the campus of The Ohio State University. Why was that project so special to you?
It was special because it was the university, and we've enjoyed a privilege for years of working with the university. This was a larger project, and at the time that we were looking at it, we didn't know if we needed a partner because of the size of it. But we decided within this room, our team decided we could win this on our own. And as a result of that, we put together a qualification that was accepted by the university. We have won the project. Then our next objective was to complete the project, and we completed that project to the satisfaction of the client.
You're often fond of mentoring young folks and describing your company's guiding principles of CHIP, C-H-I-P-P. For those aspiring entrepreneurs, tell us what CHIP is and how it's guided your success.
CHIP is an acronym for character, humility, integrity, pride, and performance. Those are the chosen words that we're looking for when we go out and select people to add to our staff here. And we think with those principles, they will fit the principles that have been established by the Smoot organization, both the Smoot family as well as the corporate family, of what we want on our team. Generally speaking, if we can get that, we can then assure the client that we're giving him what he's looking for as it relates to the principles of ethics. And we think those attributes really fit very well with the ethics that everybody is starved for today. Trustworthiness. That's what they mean. And when I talk to young people and get the opportunity to tell them about that and tell them about what my dad said about productivity and about punctuality and treating everybody with the degree of respect that you want to be treated, that's what I was taught when I was a youngster.
Louis, thank you for this conversation, and more importantly, thank you for what you have done and the legacy that you've created in this community as well as for your family.
Thank you.
Elfie, thank you so much for joining us today to have this conversation on diversity. You are the CEO of the YWCA. Tell us about the YWCA's history, especially in eliminating racism.
Eliminating racism has always been a priority for the YWCA Columbus. From our inception on, we have been at the forefront of modeling interracial relationships and promoting civil rights work. It started way back in 1920 when we opened the Blue Triangle branch for African American women. We were all about integrating and being inclusive, and throughout the years we had many milestones of promoting that component. And it's been wonderful to know that we adopted the interracial chapter back in 1946, and then certainly in 1970, eliminating racism became part of our mission. And throughout the years, we have been creating different programs, workshops, and seminars to promote eliminating racism.
Well, it's clear the YWCA and your work is important to the fabric of diversity in our community. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. So much appreciated.
Steve, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure. It's good to see you.
I'd like to start our discussion off with just a very general question. Why do you think diversity is good for business?
Well, anytime that you can represent your customer base, that's just good business. You know, it's marketing 101. You understand the needs of your guests, and then you create goods and service around it. And we serve a lot of different diverse groups of individuals in our restaurants. We service small towns, urban areas. We're in 18 states, and so you can probably get a pretty good sense for the type of diversity of our customer base. So it's just good business to represent your customer base with your employee base.
Why is grassroots diversity and inclusion important to employees like your WOBE group, which I just thoroughly enjoy and love? And how's it different from a top-down corporate initiative?
Anytime that you have a grassroots effort in any type of an environment, whether it's education, a corporation, anytime it's from the ground up, people have the passion. And we as leaders have an obligation to be the enabler. So when the team came to me and said, we want to create a group for women called the Women of Bob Evans, I was very pleased. And the first group they had together was small, and they invited me to speak, and the first thing I said to them was, don't be afraid to assemble. You have my endorsement, and you have the endorsement of my leadership team to make this the biggest women's group our corporation has ever seen. And if anybody in the corporation gives you a hard time, tell them to come pay me a visit.
I'm sure they will. They are a phenomenal group of women. I've met them and spent some time with them.
Yes.
I guess I'd like to say to you, from a community perspective, being one of maybe 2, 3, if I'm counting right, African Americans leading major businesses in this community, and you coming to Columbus for the first time a few years ago. Mm-hmm. What was that like? How does it feel to be you in that role, being who you are?
Well, this was the first time we had moved, and it wasn't a transfer from a company I was part of. So it was a new company, new community. So in many respects, it was a little scary because, I convinced my family to move, and that's always tough. We had moved several times, probably 5 times in the last 15 years. So to my family, it's like, oh, one more move, we have to move again. I think when they got there, they were blown away by the reception that we got from everybody here. I always tell people Columbus is a city with a heart. And the philanthropy that takes place in the city, along with business and government and not-for-profit organizations, is nothing like we've ever seen before. And so my family has actually gotten very involved in the community. My wife is on the board of the Columbus College of Art and Design. She's on the STAR board at Ohio State. She also is on the JDRF board. And my daughters have been active in the community as well. My daughter is a community ambassador at Ohio State. And my other oldest daughter, who's now away at graduate school, was getting actively involved in the community as well. And so it's that servant leadership that Columbus affords you actually helps you on board faster than any place we've ever lived. And it's that combination of having a heart, being a very accessible city, and then a very large and active African American community makes it easy for someone like myself to come in and be a part of. So this is now home for us.
Well, Steve, we're certainly glad you can now call Columbus your home, and we look forward to your leadership and your engagement for many years to come. Thank you for being with us today. Dr. Liu, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation on diversity. You have a very unique and interesting role. You are the founder of the Asian Festival. Tell us, how was it created and what are some of the highlights?
I proposed this Asian Festival on July 25th of 1994 and got a unanimous approval. And the main reason of that is to showcase our culture and heritage to the general public. And it was two visions. One, never charge anyone anything, so long as I am handling it. Secondly, pay back to the community with the health screenings free.
So when is the festival held? And I understand it's been expanded to 3 days?
Yes, the festival always be in the Memorial Day weekend. The reason of that is May is our Heritage Month for the Asian community. And toward the end of the month, the weather is better, and that's why we chose Memorial Day weekend, especially we can have a Monday relaxation. However, this year we are expanding into 3 days, and the third day, which is Memorial Day, will have the Dragon Boat race. And that really will put Columbus on the map. In fact, that our mayor and I will be competing in 2 boats and at the Dragon Boat race and for everyone to see. And that's exactly what he wants.
I can't wait to see that. I think I'll be rooting for you instead of the mayor, though.
Thank you.
Coming up, I'll have some more interesting conversations on diversity with leaders from the Columbus community.
Well, Bob Evans' commitment to diversity, I think, has always been there. But the way we think about diversity now is more being really a part of the communities that we serve. I think in the past, we grew up in a lot of small towns in Ohio, so tend to be a lot of the same people operating the same way, and nothing wrong with that. But as we started getting out in 18 different states and all over the place, we said, we need to be mirroring the people we serve. And so that means you hire different, you get suppliers different, you try to make sure that everybody you should be working with in the places where you are is getting represented in the work that you're doing.
Did you know that the minority population in Central Ohio has grown to almost 30% in recent years? GrapevineColumbus.com is Central Ohio's newest way to connect to minority professionals. Give us a call today to distribute your press releases, event announcements, and career and job posts. Give us a call at 614-824-4154 or connect with us online at GrapevineColumbus.com. We're your new multicultural news source.
Okay. The bad news, it's probably totaled. The good news is, you don't have to pay your deductible. With Vanishing Deductible from Nationwide Insurance, you got $100 off for every year of safe driving, so now your deductible is $0. The other good news? I held on to your coffee. Wow. Nationwide is on your side. It's actually a pretty good day when you consider.
Mom, where do potatoes come from?
The farm.
Did you get these potatoes from the farm?
I didn't, but Bob Evans did.
He's a good cook.
For breakfast, for dinner, for generations, discover the farm fresh goodness of Bob Evans.
If you're hungry for hearty favorites like our chicken and noodles deep dish dinner, you'll love our $6 farmhouse deals. 10 meals, just $6, only at Bob Evans. Come see what's cooking.
Happy birthday, Columbus. The Central Ohio African American community is filled with an abundance of rich history, and longtime residents and newcomers alike will take great pride in reading about this great legacy in our newest release titled Columbus's Black Heritage, the Bicentennial Celebration Edition. Order your keepsake collector's edition today. Call us at 614-824-4154, or you can order online at csonnymartin.com.
We're here at Nationwide Insurance to have and continue our wonderful conversation on diversity and inclusion. And that conversation would not be complete if I didn't have the opportunity to go back to my old stomping ground, my home, Nationwide Insurance. And I have with me today many of my colleagues and a good friend, Gail King, Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer. We've been going around the community having this conversation to understand for the bicentennial of Columbus where we are as a community on inclusion and diversity.
Diversity is so important to any community, and as you know from your time at Nationwide, it has been one of our #1 priorities. We believe that if we're going to be relevant today and into the future, we have to leverage the talents of everyone. And especially as you think about how our world is changing, you know, how the generations are changing, we have to be out front bringing people into our organization, retaining them, and helping them help us be the best company for the future.
Absolutely.
So some of the things that we're doing, and I think you started this with our CEO at that time and current CEO, Steve Rasmussen. One of the things he believes in is accountability. So we started with objectives for our leaders in terms of what type of environment are you setting, not necessarily objectives around quotas, because that's not what's important. It's about whether or not you're creating an environment where people can come and they can do their best work and they believe that the company is big enough for them. So Steve establishes that as a priority for the entire senior leadership team. As you know, we've been very fortunate to have a very diverse board. So we have had 3 African Americans on our board of directors. We currently have 2. They understand the difference that it makes, and in fact our entire board understands the value of diversity. But since I have my Chief Diversity Officer here, I think I'll let her tell you a little bit about some of the things that we're doing in that space.
We continue to do work that starts internally with our associates. We've got 19 associate resource groups across the country. Our associate resource groups help advise on policy. They help grow the business. As a matter of fact, last year, over 8,000 sales leads were generated through our associate resource groups. And they focus on professional development for our associates because these are the leaders of the future. Nationwide has a reputation across the country for being a place that is welcoming and inclusive to all people. And so it really is a legacy that I get to continue.
You also have a reputation for, as Gail was speaking to, diversity at the top, starting with the board and cascading through the organization, and very good at recruiting and retaining diverse talent. I'd like to ask our good friend here, David LaPaul, who's the Senior Vice President and Treasurer at Nationwide. David, welcome to Nationwide. How long have you been at Nationwide, and what was that like getting started at a new company?
One of the things I was always impressed about Nationwide is their onboarding program for associates and executives. And when I first started, I recall, you know, the first day I was here, they gave me a list of it was maybe 15 to 20 people that I was supposed to talk to in the first 30 days I was here. And I'll have to admit, when I first looked at the list, I thought, I was like, wow, that's a bit intimidating. But I can say, having gone through the program now, it is a great way to really onboard folks, because I felt like I got a scheduled opportunity to meet all of my peers, my direct reports, and also a lot of the stakeholders that I would be working with.
Chad, you are Chad Jester, the president of the Nationwide Insurance Foundation. Would you talk a little bit about the foundation and how you've woven diversity and inclusion into the fabric of your work?
We think about Nationwide and all the work that we all do within the company. We really think about the unifying purpose that we all have of helping people in need. So whether it's from a company standpoint or from a community standpoint, when we activate our corporate citizenship, we do so through volunteerism, workplace giving, and our philanthropy with the Nationwide Insurance Foundation. We really are a people-led model, I like to think of. So we have strength in our people. The money is really meant to support our people and the work that they do in communities around the country.
Chad, you have a great relationship with our Children's Hospital here. Talk about that relationship and that name change.
So it's now known as Nationwide Children's Hospital. That happened in 2006 following a $50 million gift that Nationwide Insurance Foundation made to the hospital. Our primary focus of doing that gift is really to help people in need as well. The hospital serves about 1 million patients a year, and the number keeps going up.
I think what you all have described here is how even a Fortune 500 company from the outside in and the inside out can model diversity and inclusion. And for that, we are grateful individually, but probably more collectively as a community. Thank you all so much for participating and being a part, not in just this conversation, but in this community.
Thank you so much, Donna.
Thanks.
Thank you, Donna.
Aida, thank you so much for being part of this conversation on diversity. You are the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion for Cardinal Health.
Thank you, Donna. It's great to be here today.
So Aida, share with us, why is diversity and inclusion so important for Cardinal Health?
Diversity and inclusion is very important to Cardinal Health because we see it as a source of competitive advantage, while leveraging diversity to impact the business success, while we're expanding manager capability, developing our diverse talent, and also leveraging next and best practices.
So share with me a little bit more about the diversity and inclusion initiatives at your company.
Cardinal Health feels very passionately about supporting community pharmacy. We know that local community pharmacists are a critical link in the healthcare supply chain, often providing the most convenient, accessible healthcare most patients receive.
So Aida, what other notable initiatives have you undertaken at Cardinal Health for women in leadership?
We launched the Women in Pharmacy initiative last summer at a large trade show we host every summer for independent pharmacists. The Women in Pharmacy program enables us to honor and share the success stories of the female pharmacy owners we serve, and it also enables us to encourage current and future female pharmacists to consider owning their own pharmacy. Donna, many may be surprised to learn that while more than half of all of today's pharmacy students are women, only a very small fraction of community pharmacy owners in the United States are female. Cardinal Health would like to do its part. As many of today's community pharmacists consider retiring, we want to make sure that today's pharmacy students understand that pharmacy ownership is a great career opportunity.
Aida, thank you so much for your time and for participating in this conversation on diversity. We really appreciate it. Todd, thank you for joining us today. You are the Senior Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at Abercrombie & Fitch, reporting directly to Mike Jeffries, the Chairman and CEO. So let me start off with talking about the leaders at Abercrombie & Fitch. Around diversity and inclusion, how do you hold them accountable for your vision?
You know, accountability is a big deal for us because what gets measured gets done, right? So for us, there are two ways. One, we certainly look at the quantitative side, you know, hire rates and promotions of women and people of color. But beyond that, and probably the thing that's the most important for us is the qualitative side. So we measure behaviors. And this is actually really interesting for us and one that I am passionate about, and I think our leadership team is passionate about. We define behaviors around diversity three ways. One, somebody could be a struggler, someone who struggles with talking about it, with coming to the table with the right information, somebody who may be a neutral observer, somebody who's not going to get you in trouble, who's going to go to your diversity classes, won't rock the boat, but also won't push the envelope to make something happen. And then there's that diversity champion, that person who says in a meeting, Todd, that comment you just made a minute ago was inappropriate, and let me pull you aside because in front of the group we should have this discussion about what that really means. That champion sets a tone for the culture, for the company, where it goes. So I would say that measuring behaviors is where we try to spend a lot of our time. We focus on our stores at times where we say, where are you? Are you a champion? Are you not? And if you are a champion, how does it come to work? And if I can add, we have this program called the Diversity Champion Program, which we have people nominate peers in the stores and say, how does this person come to work as a champion? What do they do? We get that piece of information, we look at it, then we do a series of interviews. We take them through 4 months of very rigorous accountability if they really are a champion. And by the time that it's all done, we end up with, let's say, about 10% of the population that was first nominated. Those, let's call it 25 people, are then voted on, but not by name, but by behavior. Wow. So then in a secret ballot, we'll find out what 10 or so rise to the top, And those behaviors, those champions, are then awarded what we call our Diversity Champion Award.
Well, clearly, Abercrombie & Fitch has a diverse brand and inclusive brand, and we really appreciate what you do in this community, and it sounds like we're going to hear more about you globally as well.
I think so.
All right. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Donna.
Outlook Media. Tell us a little bit about the company, what you do, and how you came to be a part of it.
Outlook is primarily the media company for the GLBT and more recently more progressive and allied communities. It started out 16 years ago literally as a mimeographed newsletter when none of the mainstream media were talking about any issues important to the gay community. And since then it's grown from that to a bi-weekly newspaper, to a weekly newspaper, and now to a monthly magazine serving not just the GLBT community, but really looking to serve a diverse and progressive market here in Columbus.
So, what are some of the pressing issues and concerns of the GBLT community in Central Ohio?
I think that one of the things we often forget when we live in Columbus is that we live in this wonderfully progressive and diverse and inclusive bubble, and that Ohio ranks 51st out of 50 states in terms of national protections for GLBT folks. So, where if you work for the city of Columbus or the county of Franklin, you are protected from being fired because of your sexual orientation. You can put your partner on your insurance and so forth. That's not true within the state of Ohio. So we're working on things like that. We're working on issues to make sure that kids aren't being bullied either because they happen to be gay, or sometimes kids get bullied because their parents happen to be gay. We're really working to move forward on those sort of progressive issues.
Sounds like simple, basic civil and human rights.
It's simple, basic, treating people like people. And there are things, I have a good friend of mine in Massachusetts who says that we do not need to see eye to eye in order to walk hand in hand. And I think that there are issues upon which people can certainly disagree, but things that you can't disagree about are that people should be hired and fired based on how well they perform their jobs. People should be able to live in a house and live with the person that they choose to live with. Those sorts of basic, we consider this to be basic human rights issues. The beautiful thing about being in Columbus is that it's an entire coalition. It's not just the GLBT community. It's the communities of color, it's the progressive communities, it's labor, it's people from both sides of the political aisle that are working to make things better.
Michael, you're involved in so many things, and I can tell by everything you touch, you bring a personal touch to it.
Thank you.
And a lot of business sense and savvy. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Dr. Lee, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation on diversity and inclusion. My first question for you today is about the change in the name of the office. I think it's very telling, and I'd like you to tell the story behind that.
Yes, over the years, our mission and our programming had all become much more expansive than what our name implied. So our name carried a certain type of baggage, but what we were actually doing was much more inclusive. In addition to providing programming and scholarships to racial and ethnic minorities, we also serve first-generation students, students who are coming to college for the first in their families to come to college, and also we serve socioeconomic groups. For instance, in the state of Ohio, 30-some of the 88 counties are Appalachian counties, and we also as a unit host ADA, American Disabilities Act, so we were much more inclusive than what our name implied. I think the challenge is to look at diversity not as a deficit, but as a dividend.
I love that. Well, thank you for all that you do in the community and at The Ohio State University to make sure that diversity and inclusion is also about excellence.
Thank you.
So, Takia, I'm real excited to have you here today to talk about your company, Right Choice. Would you describe what you do at Right Choice and the inspiration for your company?
Well, Right Choice is a nonprofit organization. We work with college students to help them identify internship opportunities and navigate that road to work.
So, what are some of the challenges and opportunities of young people with diverse abilities as an employee in the workplace, or even as from an employer's perspective?
You know, when I look at the challenges from an employer's perspective, I lump them into three categories. I look at the need for education, I look at the need for access, and also the need for ownership. When we think about education, our employers need to be educated about just the employability of people with diverse abilities. And when we look at access, again, their workplace needs to create open doors. You know, we always talk about the open door policy, but it's important for employers to understand that there are talents, significant talents, that lie within the disability population, but they have to open up their doors wide to this population. And when we talk about ownership, there are companies out there that truly take ownership of this mission to employ people with disabilities. So I believe that a company needs to take ownership of the initiatives. And I always talk to companies about making disability a part of their diversity initiatives.
I really love your pulling together the phrase diverse ability. When you're working with young people, how does that resonate with them?
You know, working with young people, it is different because sometimes they don't see themselves as being a diverse population.
That's phenomenal. Taikia, thank you for what you do, and thank you for Right Choice. It definitely sounds like the right choice. Summers, thank you so much for joining with us today to have a conversation on diversity in Columbus. Let's talk about Diversity Bridge. Can you share with us what Diversity Bridge is all about?
Well, Donna, thank you so much for inviting me. Diversity Bridge is an economic development initiative of the Columbus Chamber, specifically designed to provide resources to women and minority-owned businesses.
And who does Diversity Bridge serve?
Specifically, Diversity Bridge serves women business enterprises, minority business enterprises, buyers who are looking to do business with WMBEs, service providers who provide a plethora of services to these businesses want to be able to come to Diversity Bridge so that they can access these businesses all in one place.
This sounds like a very needed and well thought out program. Can you talk about some of the components or applications that you use in this program?
Absolutely. The number one application on our Diversity Bridge web portal is our Common Certification application. As many will know, these particular businesses must be certified by multiple certifying entities. We've made it very easy for them to start that process by going to Diversity Bridge. The certifying agencies retain the approval authority.
That's fantastic, because that's very much needed, especially if you're trying to get started and grow your business. How can businesses get registered for Diversity Bridge?
They can access Diversity Bridge by going to www.diversitybridge.com, or they may contact me at the Columbus Chamber at 221-1321.
Summers, thank you for the work that you do, especially around economic development in our community for minorities and women. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Barb, can you talk about the origin and purpose of WELD?
Yes, WELD was founded back in 2003 by a group of individual women in our community who really looked at the leadership landscape in our community and identified some opportunities to include more women at top leadership levels. What they saw was that when companies were looking for women to lead strategic initiatives or community initiatives, the same names kept coming up again. So one of the things that they decided to do is really highlight and promote the wealth of female talent that we have in our community through the Women You Should Know calendar.
It sounds like something that's growing. How large is the organization and what are your goals for the future?
Our goals for the future is to get the community to embrace this. WELD isn't the only organization working on this. We believe in collaboration with a number of other women's organizations like Women at the Table that in and of itself is a consortium of organizations. But first and foremost, we want to make sure that our companies and organizations understand how having women at the table can help them perform financially. We want to help identify who some of the women that are in our community who can come to the table and are ready to serve. And we want to partner with the men in our community and really focus on how to make Columbus a place where businesses want to relocate to.
That's phenomenal. Barb, thank you so much for what you do in the community, leading an organization like WELD, and thank you for participating in this conversation. Julie Graber, thank you so much for joining us today to complete this conversation on diversity in our community. Would you talk a little bit about why you founded this organization and what it's all about?
The Institute really fills a void that has existed in really Ohio for an organization that was focusing on the needs and issues that women and girls face, public policy decisions, resource decisions. And the Institute was really started to kind of step into that void. So our mission is really to improve the lives of the 5.9 million women and girls living in Ohio by fulfilling that data role. One of the things that WELD, the Institute, and Otterbein would all like to see together, part of doing this, is for the community to really look at women's advancement as a economic development asset. That if we are a community where women know there are opportunities to grow and advance in organizations, we'll do a good job of attracting those women to our community, to our businesses and our organizations.
Julie, you do great work across the community, and we're very fortunate to have you and the Institute on Women in our community. Thank you for participating in this conversation.
Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it.
Next, we'll hear from more leaders on diversity and inclusion in our community.
Well, I see Bob Evans manifesting the commitment to inclusion and diversity just by going to meetings and walking around in the building. We see a diverse group of people. We have people from all walks of life, all different places, all different backgrounds, and it really makes it just that much more rich an environment for us to interact with and just to learn and grow as people and as business people. So.
Did you know that the minority population in Central Ohio has grown to almost 30% in recent years? GrapevineColumbus.com is Central Ohio's newest way to connect to minority professionals. Give us a call today to distribute your press releases, event announcements, and career and job posts. Give us a call at 614-824-4154 or connect with us online at GrapevineColumbus.com. We're your new multicultural news source.
Nationwide Insurance, what's up?
What's vanishing deductible all about?
Guys, it's demonstration time. Let's blow Carl's mind. Okay, let's say I'm your insurance deductible. Every year you don't have an accident, $100 vanishes. The next year, another $100. Where am I going, Carl? The next year? Oh, that was weird. But awesome. Nationwide is on your side.
Mom, where do mashed potatoes come from?
Potatoes.
Where do potatoes come from?
The farm.
Did you get these potatoes from the farm?
No, but Bob did.
Who's Bob?
Bob Evans. This is his recipe.
He's a good cook.
I think so too.
For breakfast, for dinner, for generations, discover the farm fresh goodness of Bob Evans.
Guess where mashed potatoes come from?
Happy birthday, Columbus! The Central Ohio African American community is filled with an abundance of rich history, and longtime residents and newcomers alike will take great pride in reading about this great legacy in our newest release, titled Columbus's Black Heritage, the Bicentennial Celebration Edition. Order your keepsake collector's edition today. Call us at 614-824-4154, or you can order online at csonnymartin.com.
Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today for a conversation on diversity.
Thank you.
You are the new President, CEO of the Columbus Urban League. Can you define your mission and the goals you hope to achieve in the coming year?
Well, thank you, Donna, for having me today. You know, diversity for the Urban League movement, historically has been urban, has been African American. That's generally what people have thought about. In my role as the new CEO and president of the Columbus Urban League, we all know in today's geographic regions and just the geographic area of the urban community, it's no longer just African American. And so for me, the definition of diversity in the Columbus Urban League is really about multiculturalism. Urban community is no longer just black. It is white, it is Latina, it is Somali in this community. And so I want our community, when they think about the Columbus Urban League, to really think of it as the entity and organization that is going to service a multitude of ethnic and racial groups in this city.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your leadership and especially your time with us today.
Thank you.
Janet, we all know you are the CEO of the United Way of Central Ohio. I want to ask you about one program in particular, the United Way of Central Ohio's Key Club.
Key Club started about 14 years ago, and really it included business leaders, public sector leaders, leaders in the African American community who could see the benefit of United Way for the African American community and realize that for United Way to meet its mission, it needed resources, it needed dollars. And so that group of about 58 individuals that first year came together. United Way is now, that group has now grown in 10 years, or 14 years, to have raised over $10 million.
There's another initiative you have. I don't know that many people know about Project Diversity Program.
We saw a need in our community, especially for non-profit organizations, to have a more diverse leadership, more board members. So each year we recruit from the African American community, and now quite frankly it's people of color. It's expanded. And out of the 300 individuals who've gone through the program, 80% of them have actually been appointed to serve on nonprofit board. It's a great service to the community.
Thank you for being a part of this conversation today. We really enjoyed it. Manju Sankarapa, you are the Executive Director of the Ohio Asian American Coalition. I'm not familiar with the coalition. Will you share a little about what you do and what the coalition's all about?
Sure. In 2002, as community leaders in Columbus and across state of Ohio, we came together, had our first health conference. At the end of the conference, we gathered everybody and we said, what is that we want to achieve from having this type of meetings? All of them felt that we needed to have a more structured representation of Asians in Ohio. That's how the whole thing started. And our mission is to strive to eliminate social disparities and contribute to disparities in the quality of life of Ohio's Asian American and Pacific Islanders through community research, education, and advocacy.
Thank you for being an advocate in this community.
Oh, we have to be for our community and everybody.
Dr. Joy Coons-Lewis, thank you so much for joining us today to have a conversation on diversity.
You're welcome.
You are the Vice President and Board Member for the Asian American Commerce Group. Tell our viewers about the group And how can a business benefit from membership in this organization?
Well, the Asian American Commerce Group is the Chamber of Commerce for the Asian American businesses here in Central Ohio. It was established in 1993 to foster camaraderie, collaborate among Asian American businesses here in Columbus. And right now we have about 300 Asian American businesses as members of AACG, or Asian American Commerce Group. And we collaborate and try to create synergy and to promote the Asian American businesses, particularly those who have consulting, those who have just arrived here in Central Ohio and are starting their businesses. They network. We provide seminars and workshops so that they are able to really reach or get some resources so that they can improve, just expand, and get to the right people to just to improve their businesses.
If someone wants to learn more and get involved, how can we go about doing that?
Well, certainly they can contact me. With the Asian American Commerce Group, we have a website that's www.aacg.org. And with the Ohio Asian Asian American leaders, we have the www.ohioasianleaders.com.
Kenneth Ramos, you're the president of the Hispanic Chamber. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation on diversity today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What's the purpose, mission? What do you do? Why are you here?
Really, the Chamber is to help small businesses succeed in a nutshell. We have three core initiatives. One is the small businesses, but we also include the Hispanic professionals and corporations. We are part of the fabric of the community, part of the fabric of the United States. We provide everything that any other race can, and we're proud of it, and we're not there to take away from anybody else, but we're here to say that we're part of the community, and we can benefit the community in a positive manner.
Well, we appreciate it, that and all that you do in our community.
Thank
you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Francisco, Steve, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation on diversity today. You are both part of an organization called the Central Ohio Diversity Consortium, or CODC. What is CODC? How was it created, and how long has it been around?
Our mission is to collectively advance diversity and inclusion knowledge and collaboration across our organizations, and to engage them in the community and continue to improve our best practices in the area of diversity and inclusion.
So what impact does CODC hope to have on diversity and inclusion in our community here in Central Ohio?
Well, to start, we wanted to collect all the diversity leaders from the major entities like, Abercrombie Fitch, Wendy's, Honda, the Ohio State University, across the spectrum of private, public, academic, to be able to have that knowledge within our organization that we need to be leaders and true benchmarks in the profession. So again, we want to leave the impression that we are the resource to go to when companies have issues that they struggle with in the areas of diversity and inclusion.
Excellent. Thank you for the work you're doing in our community and for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Glad
Donna.
to be here. Thanks, Donna.
Guadalupe, talk to us about the New Americans Initiative. What is it?
So New Americans are immigrant and refugees who are from Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe. And in fact, Columbus has the second largest Somali population in the United States. But in addition to Somalis, we have Africans from Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, and even Rwanda. Columbus is also home to a large Russian-speaking community, and we also have individuals coming from Burma, Bhutan, and Nepal. From an economic development standpoint, if you look at Morris Road, East or West Broad Street, East or West Main Street, and Bethel Road, you will see many international businesses that are there, again from Asian, African, and Latino business owners. Also downtown, which is called the Gay Street Corridor, you will see 2 Venezuelan restaurants, a Peruvian restaurant, and a Cuban restaurant, all within 2 blocks of each other. Traditionally, the United States has always grown from the immigrant community who have come here to start businesses, become entrepreneur, and to contribute to Columbus. That's why the mayor now uses the reference of as Columbus. We're all of us are part of Columbus.
Thank you, Guadalupe. We appreciate your time and what you do in Columbus. What motivated you to move into this leadership role with the King Arts Complex?
Well, in the past, I had attended programs at the complex from time to time, and I knew Barbara Nicholson, the longtime executive director, and Larry James, the longtime president of the board, and admired and respected them both. I was serving on the board of GCAC with Larry when I read an article in the paper talking about the complex and saying that he would like some white businessmen on the board. And I told him next time I saw him that I resembled that description. So he appointed me to the board. And as I got more involved, I just fell in love with the people and the place and the programs, and I've had a lot of wonderful experiences here. So when Larry decided last year that it was time for him to step down as the president of the board, I was honored to do so.
Phenomenal. Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate your time and your leadership in our community.
Well, thank you very much, Donna.
I hope that you've been inspired by the discussions tonight, but more importantly, the advancements we're making together for the future of our fine city. This is just a sample of the many diversity champions that contribute so much daily in making the tapestry of Central Ohio so vibrant and inclusive. We thank you for tuning in tonight, and we would like to thank the sponsors for their support of this special program. Good night, and may you enjoy Central Ohio's bicentennial celebration throughout the rest of this year.